Right, good afternoon, everyone. I know we're just after lunch, so, it can get a little bit tiring and, don't want to see you falling asleep back there. So we want to be a lot more discussion-oriented in this panel. We don't want to sit up here on this panel, lecturing out to you. We wanted to really get a little bit of discussion going around what is really industrial LoRaWAN use cases. What have we been doing out there in the industry segments? And there are so many industrial segments. What has worked? What didn't work? What are the gaps with LoRa that we've been seeing from a system integration and a control system integration perspective, for example? So that's the mantra of this discussion for the next 20 minutes or so. I will introduce myself. My name's Daniel. I work for MultiTech Systems. We manufacture gateways. We developed the first LoRaWAN programmable gateway. We've got modules. We have sensors. And we've been engaged in a number of market segments, including oil and gas, utilities, and chemical processing plants, and many other industrial segments. Lucas, you want to introduce yourself, who you work for,
Sure.
what you do, what you're passionate about?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming to this session today. I hope you are enjoying the whole show. I'm Lucas Fun, CEO and founder at Webee. Webee is a 360 asset intelligence platform designed to reduce cost, greenhouse gas emissions, and also to increase the throughput and eliminate unplanned downtime in industrial manufacturing and agriculture. We created a no-code application builder and a workflow builder that is powered through LoRaWAN, and it also connects different other technologies. And this is one of the things on the digital transformation that we would like to share today on how to combine technologies with LoRaWAN in the industrial and manufacturing.
And Ashley?
Hi, yes, I'm Ashley Pope. I'm Vice President of Business Operations for Oxit. We are an IoT engineering services consulting firm, a little bit of a system integrator, but do a lot of custom design, network certification, all that fun stuff. So we're very passionate about LoRaWAN. It is our niche expertise protocol. We work with lots of others, but it's a driver of our business and a huge part of what we do. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me, Dan.
Pleasure. So let's do a little bit of polling in the audience here. How many of you guys put up your hand if you've ever been to a LoRaWAN Expo before? I mean, it's been like 800 days at least since we did one, but who's been to an Expo before? Right, okay, a few, but a lot of first-timers. What about from a membership perspective? Hands up if you're a non-member of the LoRa Alliance, but you came here today to try and learn more about LoRaWAN. Yeah, awesome. Any sponsor and contributor members out there? Right, great. And adopter members. Who's hand up if you're an adopter member? Right, okay. So actually, that's pretty cool. A lot of non-members here for the first time. So last question. How many of you guys are working in that industrial segment? Right, that's
perfect.
Good. Right. Okay, well, let's start off with an easy question to get some discussion moving, and by all means, put up your hand and come join the conversation. This isn't about us lecturing to you. But what kind of use cases have we been seeing in this industrial space, and why are those use cases there? So Lucas.
Maybe I can share what we are doing some of our customers. A customer is one of the leader CPG companies in the world. They have different initiatives on the manufacturing side to go through the digital twins and make the operations more efficient, reduce energy consumption, and also has many ESG initiatives as well. So one of the things that we discovered is that many things are in the production line. They use as an example SCADA, they already have connected on the production line. But the services, the auxiliary services for the whole production is not connected. They have machines or HVAC that are not even connected. And they have also substations, like electricity substation and transformer, that are not connected at all. So they used to have a manual inspection to go through each substation, see on the HMI, take some notes, and then to understand if they were having a problem on the electricity, like harmonic distortion or power factors. And they say how we can connect the whole electricity of the plant instead of waiting 1.5 months to have the bill to then later calculate the CO2 emissions. Because this company has a really strong goal to be a net zero carbon footprint on 2040. So we say, okay, if they wanted to do it, they have actually a 20 years old substations panels all running with Siemens and also some power meters with Schneider Electric. They say if we want to connect that is in the floor of the whole factory, we will need to do maybe a $2 million project going with wires to there to connect to the Ethernet and create another SCADA network with for those large companies, really cumbersome project that needs to be authorized. So we say, okay, don't worry. What we can do is combine your technology and the industrial network that you have, but also like the Siemens power meters that they have that has RS-485 and Modbus connectors. We can gather that data in real time with a LoRaWAN transceiver. So we installed just one gateway that covers the whole factory, and we started connecting sensors on a bottom-up approach. The first step was connecting the transformer substations, and we started measuring on the top level on the whole electricity on the plant, and then we started upscaling to the utility monitoring. So it was pretty easy. One gateway, 5 dB antennas, one transceiver per each HMI, and started gathering in real time that information. And then we went down a second level to the brakes on the circuits, and then we went down to a third level monitoring the machines, HVAC, compressors, air crushers, low pressure compressors, high pressure compressors. And in that, we didn't only take the energy consumption with clamps, non-intrusive, and powered by LoRaWAN, but also we connected a vibration and temperature sensors for the machines, and we are running AI algorithms that detect anomalies in the plant. One of the key things was in this use case that it's not about measuring one thing alone. So it's not about just the electricity and the transformer. It's not about what is happening with the machine. It's about what is happening with the 360 view of the whole plant. So in one of the other factories of this company, we started doing similar scope, and we monitor the mixer that mix the toothpaste. They have two big mixers. It's like a 15 meters tall. And we discovered that for a specific flavor of that toothpaste, the brakes were going down. And it was because it was more heavy, the toothpaste, and the mixer was having a problem on the tilt on the axis. So with that 360 visibility, we could improve from 50% to 75% the efficiency for that flavor manufacturing. This is what you can get with one use case that provides the visibility and can be powered through LoRaWAN. For doing in the old school, what we call is they should have like another SCADA network, another wiring on another PLC connected, and that was replaced all with a combination on LoRaWAN. So
what have you been seeing, Ashley? We touched on a number of topics here about stranded assets, digitization, ESG targets, efficiency. How have you seen this playing out? Do you see additional drivers?
So I think one of the big things we've seen a lot of our device OEM customers trying to address for their end customer is labor shortage, the fact that in these industry settings and inside these manufacturing facilities and production areas, there's still a huge labor shortage because of COVID. And now they have a hard time finding the janitor to go in and, clean, or the people to go in and count the pallets, or the guy who checks the machine. And they're kind of in crisis mode still, which I think a lot of them thought that this was going to dissipate and get better, and it's actually not gotten all that much better recently for them. So the thing they're coming to us and saying is, how can I make so in some specific use cases, how can I make my R&D dollars turn into filling the gap of labor shortage and missing manpower? So it's been things like focusing on, asset tracking within the production and industry setting, and then also preventative maintenance and things like that, and even, figuring out how they can solve the problem of the janitor cleaning the hallways. It's really, really interesting. We do work for like digital towers and things like that, but I think of this as like it's a digital factory. Like they're wanting exactly what you said, like every layer of the production setting or production environment to become smart and to get data for them. So I agree with Lucas.
So maybe taking this one out to the audience then, what kind of issues have you been seeing realizing this? I mean, there's a lot of good reasons there, like ESG, efficiency, power, consumption, but has it been simple for you guys to implement this multi-level stack? Have you run up against roadblocks where you're looking for something more from LoRaWAN than is there today? Be interesting if anybody wants to discuss their experiences there.
I've got a brief question, I guess, or maybe a comment. I guess can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, he's bringing you the.
Thank you. So I guess my question is really around the implementation of these sensors into a factory. And the way I've seen it really to date is that each use case, each type of machine, each item that you're looking for, take a generator as an example. There's no standardized parts unless you get something very new, very, I guess, in a way already sort of digitized. But a majority of the use cases out there in generators are for older generators. People have thousands of them around islands and cities and areas that have power issues. Each one, has sort of a customized interface to it. So how do you all address the ability to talk to these different generators in a manner where you're not having to engineer something each time?
So that's a good question. Are you really looking to control the generator, or are you looking for whether the generator is turned on, is it turned off, is it vibrating in an odd way, if it's in an enclosed environment, has emission levels gone up because the exhaust's not venting? Is it more those types of use cases, or are you really looking to get a deeper level of data off of that?
Just one more time. I would say in most cases it's adequate for people. They just want to know a lot of times, is my generator there first, right? Do I have this asset available? But once they see, oh, this is, I'm automating my industrial side of my company. Okay, well, how easy is it for me to tell if it's on? Or what's the fuel level of this? And so then you start adding all of these multi-technologies. Right? You're right, you can clamp on to see if there's current being generated there. You can figure out some different ways to measure different types of fuel tanks. But altogether, to have a smart generator, you're either going to have 5 or 6 or 7 different sensors that require different sort of interfaces to this generator. Or really what we had not seen out there yet is a single one that is not really plug and play, because none of this really is, but one sort of system that can be used throughout an entire region, let's say.
Okay. So what we've been seeing at MultiTech in those situations is that you really do have these non-intrusive sensors. They can be cable tied. A lot of these sensors are magnetic, right? So they can attach directly to pumps and motors and turn in equipment. As you highlighted, that tells you whether the motor is on, it's off. You can do tank level monitoring in order to make sure that the fuel is there or not there. And you, with the vibration, which, with AI algorithms that I'm sure Lucas is going to chip in with here, you can estimate revs per minute and bearing usage, and really none of that requires a standard interface to the generator.
Totally agree, Dan, with that. So today, LoRaWAN is disrupting the whole world and the industrial, and is a change of mindset in the whole manufacturing and industry. Because you may think on, like you said, if it is an old machine or a legacy machine that is not connected, well, to get information from that, it will be really complicated on the old school. With LoRaWAN, you have what Dan mentioned is non-intrusive sensors that we used to call it stick and play, because it's not even plug and play. You don't need to plug to anything. It's a battery-powered devices. There are some of the members of the alliance as well that are manufacturing what is called B-utility. It's an energy monitoring sensors that you don't even need to have a battery operator. They can work forever, harvesting from the energy consumption all to power by itself. So we all these customers that we deploy, deploy remotely in the middle of COVID and post-COVID as well. We ship all the sensors from different third-party vendors that are really non-intrusive, stick and play. And the second part on the question that you made is about you mentioned that sometimes you need a tech skills to make them work. So that is really changing. So you receive the sensor with a QR code, just scan the QR code, and a magnetic sensor like to measure vibration or temperature in a machine, and then you start gathering data automatically. All of that, in the case with our software, we have AI algorithms that can understand what is happening on the machines or the generator by itself. So we can detect if those are there in place, but also even with just vibration, you can understand if the machine is turned on or off. And then the algorithms calculate the OEE and different metrics and KPIs about the machine health, and if they will break or not, how many hours were used. Going through a more complicated machine than just a generator that you can monitor vibration, speed, temperature of the motor, and electricity consumption, as an example, we go to a CNC that was not actually the new ones that you can grab all the information from the MT connector. Is that we put different vibration sensors on different axes. It's a CNC that do the cutting for wood. And with the different non-intrusive sensor, a set of 8 sensors, different vibration, energy consumption, we monitored 3 motors, the 3 axes on the motors as well on the movement, and we can get with data how was the performance and the OEE on the manufacturing. So I think that this is dramatically changing because in many cases you will be able to create an SCADA network and connect those new machines. In many cases you will be in a remote LAN or with remote connectivity, and you need to use a LoRaWAN connectivity to grab that information real time.
So Ashley, do you see all of those issues in connecting to the asset, or do you see more issues connecting to the head-end platforms or the clouds to be able to get the data into some kind of format?
I think we typically interact with people who are struggling with the latter, with navigating the cloud and that aspect of it, right? Because they've made decisions about the architecture of their solution and where they're deploying the sensors and how typically on their own internal knowledge and know-how, and they don't always bring in a partner like Lucas and Webee or myself and Oxit. And they make these decisions arbitrarily, and then we come in and they've got all of these performance problems. I don't know how many times you guys have had a customer reach out to you and say, LoRaWAN is supposed to give me this fantastic range, and yet I have put it down in the basement of a building surrounded by metal in a boiler room, and I should be able to penetrate all of that. And you're like, yeah, but what about your gateway? Where are you, like, you know, all the other aspects of it that they don't completely understand, they've made some critical mistakes. So then once we can even navigate any of that and get through the inherited hardware of the solution, then we get to the point with them where we're like, what are you going to do with your data? You're pulling the data. What are you going to do with it? And a lot of times they just kind of look at us like, well, AWS is going to handle that. We're like, no, you have to have a data strategy. You have to have that. And so I think for us, it's the latter. It's, you know, the communication, the asset to the cloud. That's usually a more difficult problem for us.
All right. Well, I think we're getting close to the bottom of the hour. So one more question, from the audience here. Really be great to hear, you know, what you've been doing in industrial segments, or where you see particular challenges. So, so you guys who put up your hands working in those industrial markets, where has LoRa perhaps gone beyond your expectations, or it fell short in some way? You know, come on, guys. You know, it's a discussion environment here. Nobody's gonna, you know, pick on you afterwards.
Worst case, the network will speak up in the back. I see them.
I mean, we operate networks, so we see, you know, we generally will deploy a nationwide network, but in terms of the factory, the coverage is built inside the factory. So someone like Webee or Oxit would come and deploy their own coverage in most cases in something like the factory. But you know, from our side on a bigger level, which is monitoring city assets that may be spread throughout the city, I mean, we don't see technology troubles with LoRaWAN itself. I mean, our problem is the implementation. You know, does it require an engineer to go there to set it up the first time?
Yeah.
That's what we see as the big problem.
Yeah, and we are all members of the LoRa Alliance Smart Industry Work Group, and about a year or so ago, we did a gap analysis on, you know, where LoRa's falling short, and a key action coming back from that was that the OT guys are out there. They're used to configuring industrial equipment. Sensors with LoRaWAN backhaul is a little bit new. Key management, onboarding of assets, a telco structure of gateways, talking to sensors, backhauling data into a network. It's a different type of skill set. But I think over the last couple of years, the LoRa Alliance and the vendors around the alliance here, we've made great progress in being able to digitally scan a new device, be able to load that into a database so that that device can provision and connect into the network. And a lot of these friction points are moving away now. And that enables us then to get down to the next level of gaps. And as we were discussing, it's not so much how you interface to the final piece of equipment. The final piece of equipment is a magnetic or cable tie non-intrusive sensor, or it's a sensor with a digital or analog interface which you can just plug into an asset and connect what is a stranded asset then. But a lot of issues are where do you connect into cloud platforms? Where does that make sense? Where does the customer want that in a dashboard in a cloud? And where does a more industrial company want that integrated into their own legacy systems? So we heard about SCADA, but SCADA isn't the only legacy system. This building has a building management system and a building automation system in it. Perhaps, Ashley, you can comment on how you've been maybe connecting assets into buildings, and do you connect to a cloud, or do you have to now connect into an existing platform? How have you been connecting into those platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been doing a bit of connecting into the existing platform, but I think honestly what we're seeing more and more is customers wanting to connect into the cloud. Like the idea that even though they've invested a lot of money sometimes in these existing systems, is that they're finding it really, really challenging to train the next level or next layers of employees on how to navigate it. And then when it's breaking and they're having problems, it's a huge headache. So I think there's almost like this buzzword in a lot of the industries of taking the data to the cloud, like controlling through the cloud, and honestly, we're seeing a big push for even the devices themselves to do like the edge computing and things like that. And all of that is a little tricky with these built-in management systems. So I think it's a bit of a mix, but I'm seeing a lot more towards the cloud side.
So I want to add that one of our customers has the running Wonderware for the production, but also has a BMS system like you just mentioned. And the problem is that they have data in silos. So they manage the HVAC in the BMS. They need to go through something like a remote access or TeamViewer to go to the machine that runs the BMS systems, and then to the Wonderware, the same case. And they don't have a way to provide the power to the citizen developers, to the real users that has the domain expertise to solve the pain points on the real-time operations, on the daily operations. Who really knows about there is a leakage in the HVAC, and that's why it's consuming more energy. So when we created our no-code toolset, and this is the future and could be ours or from other company, is providing the power to the citizen developers. So then you will have the adoption also for the whole system. Like Ashley and Dan mentioned, it's not just gathering data, it's the first step. We don't know what we don't measure. So when you have the data, and then if you have terabytes of data, but you cannot act upon that, it doesn't make sense to have the data. So then what is the best way to act upon that data? Is by giving the user interfaces simple to the users that they need it. So the plant manager, they want to see another things different than from the maintenance manager. If you can provide that user interfaces and they can customize without technical skills, you will have that engagement and really make the operation more efficient. And that comes with the labor shortage that Ashley mentioned, is that it's very difficult to train people when you need to recover. And with the COVID, sometimes the people cannot go to work. So those are the things that are really changing the world, giving the power to the citizen developers to set up even a variable to monitor or an asset, but also to operate that asset from the user interface.
Right. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour, the bell ringing there. So I just wanted to wrap up here. So industrial segments are a little bit different than other segments, consumer. It's about long life, it's about ruggedness. There's a lot of certifications like ATEX or Class 1 Div 2 in the US for hazardous environments. And so those sensors tend to be much more robust and more powerful in many ways, sensors. A few years ago, this was very new territory for the industrial guys to put in these sensors and use wireless technology. But this has really gathered strong momentum in the industrial segments now. Digitization, the need to remove the dude with a dipstick, the guy with the clipboard, this all needs to be digitized and put into a twin so that these production facilities can be 21st century automated systems. LoRaWAN is doing a spectacular job really connecting up assets, meters, tanks, equipment, lighting, tracking, and a lot of that is being pulled into cloud platforms for very fast scalability and execution of data and outcomes. But of course, industry is an old industry that's been around for many years. There's a lot of legacy systems. And LoRaWAN is being used by oil and gas industries, utilities, mining, and many others to also integrate sensors that are monitoring assets and even controlling pumps and valves into existing closed-loop control systems using BACnet, Modbus, and other industrial protocols. So we've now hit the elbow in this industry. This is now scaling in industry, and the beauty of LoRaWAN has been that scalable agility in the architecture and how those sensors can just be quickly cable tied and connected to assets. So I'm going to leave it there, hand it back to Zuzi for the next panel.
Daniel, thank you very much, and thank you to Ashley and Lucas as well.
Thank you for
thank
having
you
me.
all. We have 2 more 20-minute sessions left today. Coming right up is a smart utilities panel, and then I'll be having a one-on-one conversation with Sarush Sami, who is the new chair for smart homes and neighborhoods, which is a completely new vertical that LoRaWAN has just come into. So that should be a great talk. Thank you for coming, and thank you all as well.